well, let's move on to the future now. So obviously, I've sort of alluded to before, we are in the process of sort of relaunching sort of IOTA ML 2.0, if you will. What can people watch this video? What can brands expect from IOTA in the next 6, 12, 18 months in terms of the platform itself?
Yeah, well, the vision we had for the product was really like a ecosystem of apps, and these apps would all have different functions depending on what marketing thing you needed to do. So for everyone at home, there's just different flavors of predictions you can build for different contexts and different insighty things. So the goal of it is, again, be able to build smaller audiences that you can engage. And the segmentation side is really level up marketers' knowledge of, well, what customers do they have. I skipped over that earlier, Matt. So another trigger was I became a consultant. Both those brands I have mentioned, I arrived and asked, can you tell me a customer profile that you have? So one was travel, one was automotive, and the response was a bit like, yeah, we have business and we have leisure. I'm like, well, I know that. That's how you, on the travel one, that's how you sell your tickets. So it's bleeding obvious that's there. And on the other side, it's like, well, yeah, you have like personal buyers of vehicles, and then you have people buying pools of vehicles, like a big corporate who wants a collection of cars for their company. But what wasn't emerging was beneath that. So okay, you have leisure buyers, personal buyers. Which segments? Tumbleweed, blew across. So that told me there was a lack of customer insight of just who have we got here. And if there's a lack of customer insight, there's no point talking about personalization. Doesn't matter. You can't launch a differentiation strategy if you simply just don't know who you've got. So look, so the ideas with IOTA were a predictive analytics platform that's got some different features for different contexts, and a kind of an insights element. Where we're sort of taking that to next is a bit of an upgrade on probably two fronts. A couple of additional apps, so adding to the product set. And where I'm taking this to is that IOTA, I want it to be more alive. So we're building native apps for Apple and Android. So our platform will be a web platform, but it will have some intelligent notification features. So the bit I'm trying to get across is that data is very fluid. It's like always new data coming in, always interesting things in there, but this is something the marketers don't always see. So we've got what we're building today is more intelligent notifications that will be like, just to give you a simple example, when the data loads, we can say, hey Matt, guess what? There's more segment A's this week than last week. Like, does that mean something to you? You might go, oh yeah, right. We did some campaign over there, and it's flooded a new segment of consumers in there. As a marketer today, you would never know. Got no clue unless you were looking for it. So imagine like alerting capability that is about leveling up marketers' knowledge of what data do they have, who's ready to buy, what content should you send. All of these things will be running in a more automated way to provide this notification experience. That's one of the key ones. And if I translate this a bit more seriously, I'm determined that IOTA will not be a dusty piece of tech. Okay, lots of MarTech is dusty, unused tech. It has utilization of 1%. So if you look at a big marketing cloud, probably like marketer jumps on once a week, maybe does something. The rest of the time it's dormant. Marketers will come back at me and say, yeah, I've run triggers and there's these things going on. I know, but for the most part, it's not pushed to its limits. I invite all viewers to go off and look at, there's some Gartner statistics that are really interesting. It kind of goes like this. Year 2020, big survey about, only like 40% of marketers say they use their whole tech stack. The following year, it's only 32%. The most recent year is like 30%. So there's this kind of downward trajectory of too much tech, too complicated, and the conclusion is that the marketers don't use it. So I'm determined that we won't be in that space. We'll build a platform that they can use, but the platform comes to them. So that's one of the experiences we hope to build. And then the last part is really like what I would call AI enrichment. So we are a machine learning brand. For clarity, we are about taking first-party data that you have building machine learning models that let you target consumers more effectively in smaller groups. It tells you what content to send them, and so on and so forth. Like if you follow these predictive audiences, your engagement will go up, because everything will become more relevant. Where we add some enrichment is a bit more like, it's from an area of, I would call it synthetic data, Matt. So synthetic data is knowledge contained in a language model. This is what an AI is. So to give a simple example of that is, imagine an enrichment that says, if I say to you, hey, here's an audience that you should sell, I don't know what, spades to. And you'll go, you go, oh, John, thanks for this. I now know who to sell this spade to. You don't really know anything about the motivational drivers of why does someone buy this product. So you're a little bit limited in what you can put into your campaign copy or CTAs, or how you can position it. So if you see what I'm saying, there's the generation of the audience, but there's the extra step of, well, from a data-driven level, now you've identified this group of people. How can we use an AI to say, these are the spade buyers? By the way, I've got gardeners outside. That's why I've thought of it. Spade buyers versus non-spade buyers. What does a language model know about what the different motivations would be for the product purchase? So if we add this kind of enrichment step that will say, marketer, here's your audience. These are the IDs. This is what you need to do. And if you're lacking inspiration about how to position the product or what you should talk about, here's what AI will say about it. So it's kind of that extra step of like, what do you say and how do you say it? So we're trying to push the product into this space. So what's the conclusion, Matt? A notification experience that's far richer, new apps, but with a degree of AI enrichment to overcome, if marketers feel overwhelmed with how to sell a product or lacking a bit of an insight, how do we automate some of this? We won't be an AI brand, but we will begin to enrich, machine learning generated audiences with this type of knowledge.
Look, fantastic. I think the roadmap and the future roadmap is clear. Obviously, I've always admired what you do with IOTA today, and obviously where you want to take it in the future. I think it's great, and obviously I have full belief that you'll get there. So, but let's end this on a bit more of a lighthearted note now. Obviously, you as I said, you work many different projects, fingers in many pies, very focused on IOTA. You must have some downtime. So what does downtime look for John Conway? What do you do when the laptop gets shut down for that half an hour period?
Well, Matt, I've got two kiddies, 6 and 2.
Yes.
The 6-year-old is, he's 6, so his social life is already overtaking mine. Becoming that dad that has to bring him everywhere all the time. But no, I spend time with my kids, Matt. So I two answers. Spending time with my kids. My son's into things I was into, so he likes bike riding and whatnot. I love mountain bikes. In the room next to me is 4 mountain bikes that are all like vintage.
Nice.
I'm too scared to ride them in case I get mugged. So I've got like vintage bikes from the 90s that, as a school kid, that I was like, I've got to have that at some point in my life. Matt, I went back as an adult and bought those bikes, and they sit in there, and now I'm too afraid to ride them in case a stone chip, happens on the paint or something like that. But anyway, look, so collecting bikes, biking, playing football with my son. My daughter's 2, and she's showing signs of my level of like focus and attention to detail. So she's already looking like an engineer of the future. So with my daughter, it's
nice.
like building things, unbuilding it, and immediately putting it back together again. So she's maybe she's a data scientist of the future. But I'll finish by saying that some of what I said at the start of this call has come true. So we do, the children came, and I do make a point of breaking off, in summer break. So last 3 years at least, I've worked through the year, of course, but I've managed to do that whilst being a bit of a nomad. So while the kiddies are around in the summer, traveled extensively through like Europe and some long haul and whatnot. So we just bring the kids. It means I have to code at night sometimes and do some of those things. But that earlier piece of the freedom, I'm determined that is part of it. So but basically winter's a bit of a lockdown. You get the kiddies through their kindergartens and schools and all the things that they're doing. But when the summer comes around, we like to travel. So I suppose it's bikes and travel, Matt, to conclude.
Absolutely, mate. Well, you've hit one of the nails on the head there, haven't you? About being self-employed, being able to have that time to spend with your family. So look, I think that's it now. So look, let's wrap up for today. John, absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining us on Paramount Profiles. And yeah, hopefully in 4, 5, 6 months we'll get you back on and we can talk about how IOTA 2.0 is going and talk about some of the successes that has brought. But for now, John, thanks for joining us, mate.
Thank you, Matt. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye-bye. So a massive thank you to John for being my first guest on Paramount Profiles. I always love talking to John about business and IOTA ML, and I'm sure you'll agree that his passion really comes through when he talks about IOTA and where he wants to take it in the future. Now, if you want more information on IOTA or on Paramount Sales, I put all the necessary links in the video description below. So if you're either watching this on YouTube or you're listening on your chosen podcast provider of choice, please feel free to press that like button, subscribe for further content, or leave your feedback by commenting, as long as it's positive, of course. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon for the next episode of Paramount Profiles. Cheers.